I'm going to show you 5 beginner maintenance checks that you can do to your motorcycle. Checking the oil. Checking your tire pressures. And this one's low. Checking your brake pads, and luckily I just changed these, so these are good. And also making sure you don't forget to check your rear brake pads as well. Checking your brake fluid to make sure 1, it's not discolored, and 2, it's not below that lower line. Here's another instance. It's not discolored, and it's also not below the lower fill line. Checking various fasteners on the bike to make sure that they don't fly off while you're riding. These were actually kind of loose. If your bike is belt driven, checking it for any imperfections. For those of you that have been riding for years, this information is obviously trivial, but for people that are new to riding, they may not know these things, so cut them a little slack. We don't have an infinite amount of time, and I know a lot of us would rather be riding than doing maintenance, but being able to do maintenance or preventative maintenance in bite-sized chunks makes it less stressful and a lot more fun to deal with. These maintenance checks won't take you a long time to do, so there's not really an excuse to not do them. Plus, you're learning more about your motorcycle, which could come in handy in a very dire situation or if you're on the side of the road. Number 1, check your tire pressure. The colder months are setting in, meaning your tire pressures will drop. Check them. I have this tool that gives me a digital reading of my PSI, or using an analog version is just as easy. But this takes seconds to do and helps you understand why your steering feels so heavy in the front, or if you have problems turning your motorcycle. Hey yo, check them pressures, man. Just check them. And a bonus to this is when you're riding with a passenger or luggage, obviously this extra weight, you're maintaining the longevity and health of your tires. Check them pressures. Number 2, check your oil. That's an obvious one. But without oil pumping through the veins and the channels of this motor, you get no lubrication. You're going in dry, bruh. And higher engine temperatures, of course, is caused by low oil pressure, and that causes metal grinding against more metal parts without lubrication or adequate lubrication. Eventually, you're gonna have a rod that blows through the crankcase. Don't ask. But hey yo, check your oil. Each motorcycle is different, but checking oil is mostly a standard process. You simply take the dipstick out and check whether it's low or high. And if low, you add oil until it touches the full line. Make your motorcycle happy. But it's also good to know how low your engine oil is. That lets you know that 1, you're not changing your oil at recommended times, and 2, it might be that your motorcycle is burning oil, too much oil at that point, and that's a bigger problem, but at least you know. Number 3, checking your brake pads. It's simple to do, folks. Look near the brake caliper to see how much meat you have on the pad. And as your brake pads get lower, eventually you won't have anything to stop on, which of course is reducing your braking potential. And another sign could be squealing or grinding noises, indicating it's time to change your brake pads. Plus, you could scuff the rotor if the brake pad begins to dig. And excessive heat from the brake pads could also warp the rotor or cause unwanted vibrations when you try to stop. Hey, you don't want this. You don't want it. Simply look down and check to see if it's time to check your pads. This takes less than a minute to do, but also make sure you do this for the rear brakes. There's absolutely no point in checking the front brakes if you're not checking the rear brakes. Number 4. But on the topic of brakes, check your brake fluid. If it ever gets too low, you're potentially introducing air into the braking system, or if the braking fluid is old enough, moisture can get into the lines and end up rusting the brake lines like my own. And this is coming from me, somebody that completely redid their entire braking system. Trust me. And if air gets into the line, you're playing a dangerous game of not only not having braking power, but you'll have to bleed the brakes. Yeah, it's just your luck. You go to brake and you have no brakes because you got air in the line. Check your brake fluid. Checking your brake fluid levels is easy. You simply look in the window to see if it's at the full or the low line. If it gets anywhere near that low line, add the appropriate brake fluid. But before you do that, make sure you cover the painted parts of your bike. If any fluid gets on that paint, any fluid, like any, your paint is as good as ruined. But just like I said before, don't forget to check the rear brakes, because there's no point in checking the front brake fluid if you're not going to check the rear brake fluid. But unfortunately on the M109R, it's covered by this panel, which means I have to take the tank off and then take all this off. But either way, it's the exact same process. Last but not least, number 5. I've had parts fly off from my motorcycle before because I didn't tighten fasteners good enough. Check your fasteners and your accessible screws. This signal light fell off one night because the screw loosened up and it was rubbing against the tire. Luckily I caught it at the last minute, but I've also lost a license plate before for the exact same reason. But it only takes minutes to go around and check visual screws and mounts to make sure that the vibrations of the motor and road conditions haven't shaken something loose off of your motorcycle. It's better to take those 5 minutes to check everything than to make that walk of shame up the highway to pick up the pieces, and then you got to actually go to the store to buy a replacement part. Yeah, talking from experience once again. Oops. Well, this flew off. Damn it. That didn't last long. Here's a bonus number 6. Check your final drive for imperfections. If you're like me, I have both a drive shaft final drive and a belt driven final drive motorcycle. On drive shaft motorcycles, that's just changing the oil and you're done. They're essentially maintenance free. But on belt and chain driven motorcycles, it's a tad different. See, on the V-Rod, I have to visually inspect the belt for any imperfections. And I do that by putting it on the lift and rotating the tire to see the belt and also inspecting the pulley system. But you can do this without a lift, but obviously you'd have to roll the bike the whole time to see the belt completely. Bonus tip is, while I'm already back here, I can also check my tire tread for any imperfections and make sure there's like no punctures or nails back there that I don't know about, and also check to see if I have excessive wheel play. Now, if you're anything like me, you're gonna try to find every single reason to look at this rear tire because thick butts just look good on motorcycles, right? So while I already got the bike in the air, I'm gonna simply check to make sure I don't have any like nails in the tire or just odd tread patterns, or making sure that I don't have any carcass showing, because I already got the bike in the air, so I might as well check, right? Oh yeah, just thickness, man. But yeah, it don't take long. And it's always a good time to check for any leaks that you may have around your motorcycle. Motorcycles have various seals and O-rings that keep fluids in the bike. And obviously, as time goes on, those seals begin to break down and you might start seeing little deposits show up around the bike. So it's a good time to get ahead of those, check them, and make sure that, you know, fluids are not leaving the bike unexpectedly. And also, it's a good chance always to check to see if anything's out of place. You know, check to see if your cell phone mount is properly attached. Make sure your mirrors are properly adjusted. Make sure your windshield bolts are also fastened so it just doesn't magically fly off going down the highway. There's always something to check on our motorcycles, and again, it's better to periodically check these things versus dealing with it when something actually happens, right? And again, a lot of this just simply doesn't take a lot of time to do. This started off as 5 maintenance checks that you could do with your motorcycle, but it turned out to be a lot more than that. But if you're a motorcycle rider out there, comment down below some of the maintenance checks that you like to do on your motorcycle, so any beginner riders that are stopping in, they can read those and I guess take more notes. But as always, thanks for watching, and also let me know if you're a big fan of the N109R or if you're a bigger fan of the V-Rod. Let's get a little conversation going down below. But yeah, if you're subscribed, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.